Hello and welcome to our special programme on how to get ahead with automation, a practical guide for telecom operators. I'm Guy Daniels. Now, telcos are having to introduce ever-increasing levels of automation, simplification and industrialisation into their network operations. And this extends from planning and building all the way through to operating. Rakuten Symphony, Intel and Supermicro have collaborated to address these issues. And over the next 60 minutes, we will find out how they are reducing supply-side SKUs, removing the need for manual intervention, and introducing workflow digitalisation. We will also be answering some of your questions on automation. If you haven't already submitted one, you can still do so, and any we don't answer during the show will be forwarded to our guests once we finish. Plus, we have a poll question for you, but more on that later in the programme. Okay, time to meet our guests, and I'm delighted to say that joining me today are Geoff Hollingworth, who is Chief Marketing Officer for Rakuten Symphony, Caroline Chan, VP of the Network and Edge Group for Intel, and Mory Lin, VP of IoT, Embedded and Edge Computing at Supermicro. Hello everyone, it's good to see you all. Well, first of all, how did this collaboration come about? What was the opportunity that all three companies recognised that started this process? Geoff, let's hear from you first.
Yeah, thank you, Guy. As people know, the Rakuten journey started in 2018, and the approach taken, which was completely cloud native, open RAN, and automated, it was known that builds on the capabilities and inventions of other companies to a much greater extent than how you build traditional networks. So immediately in 2018, we really built a coalition of the willing, and your other two guests here, Caroline and Mory, were obviously and are foundational members of what we have done in Japan and now what we're taking around the world.
Yeah, thanks very much, Geoff. Well, let's hear from our other two guests. Mory first. You know, what started this out? Geoff was talking there about what you were doing together in Japan.
Yeah, thank you, Guy. I think first of all, this is all story beginning when Open RAN has a chance for the hardware invest into this segment, and Supermicro got this chance to present to Rakuten how we can use x86 platforms to support the Open RAN, this kind of concept. And then during this journey, we have a lot of experience shared by the Rakuten and from Intel to how to optimize our off-the-shelf services and also hardware to make it friendly to the development. And this is make it very unique segment because we are able to bring the data center technology and extend it to telco business and also redesign the system to make it very reliable for all the applications in the field right now. And starting from the journey in Japan, we also have a lots of chance with Rakuten Symphony to the world. And I think the last sessions, we will talk about them more in detail. Thanks.
Yes, I hope we will indeed. And Caroline, what about Intel? How did Intel get involved?
So Intel has been in this journey the last 14, 15 years, really running, be part of the ecosystem, transforming the network from a purposely built into much more disaggregated, virtualized, containerized, more cloud-like, like Mory was talking about, taking a playbook from what the cloud hyperscalers has been rolling out, and look at what the enterprise world looks like as well. So what we quickly realize is that the automation becoming a huge part of it, because you are joining different parts of the ecosystem together, because your hardware is disaggregated, because we have to run the flexibility. Think of if I look at 5G network, And as EMBB, it certainly connect many of the IoT devices together. It needs to serve different enterprises. So the automation, the digitalization of this whole process becomes such important. We're very grateful to be able to work with industry-leading companies like Supermicro, right, Rakuten Symphony, to get this journey, be part of this journey.
Great. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, everyone, for that. So that's how the collaboration came about. I'd like to ask each of you now, when you go and talk with operators, when you have your meetings with them, what are you seeing from an operations perspective? Geoff, do you want to take this first?
Yeah, thanks, Guy. I mean, I think the first thing that we have to embrace in existing operators, existing operations, is just the sheer complexity, scale, and history of those operations. And all of the people working inside those domains are working at full capacity. So the challenge foundationally with automation, everybody knows that it's something that you need to do, but how can you actually do it while you're still doing your day job? And I think we should also recognize that automation is not something new to the industry. It is something that we have been doing for 10 plus years, but we've tended to do it in a very localized and domain-centric way. And now I think what we're starting to introduce in this journey is actual automation at the end-to-end system level. And that's where you get the promise of true transformation and ultimately autonomy if you've gone down the full journey.
That's interesting. Thanks very much, Geoff. Caroline, when you have your meetings with your customers, what are you seeing on with regards to automation from an operations view?
It's almost a must-have. I have the fortune to serve on the board of Telecom Infrastructure Project TIP, where we have majority of the European operators on the board, and this is the one thing that constantly we're hearing is the need to automate the operation flow. With the old days of doing things like Geoff is describing, is no longer valid. It no longer makes sense, given used to be a network coming from a few the manufacturers. It's now coming from many more, and plus all the complexities of adding a new software into the system. It's a whole what's happening in the enterprise and the cloud needs to happen. So that demand is here and it's not going away. And especially when we go into looking at 5G beyond, 5G advanced, and going into the enterprise world, I think that the momentum that we're building, the demand that's out there will only increase and not decrease at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Caroline. And Mory, what are you seeing? What's your view on this?
Yeah, I think we are more in a position to understanding, not just from the operators. I think at the very beginning, we carefully listened to the Rakuten, the problems they described. And operators for sure have the pressure to lower the total cost ownership. And also they are planning to do more virtualized services. And to make this stable and reliable, automation is one of the key processes to keep the quality of the service to the end user, including the network as well. To reach this level, there are lots of challenges will come after this, especially you want to use a very flexible hardwares. And we would like to use this chance to share some observation we have from the operators. They definitely have a different kind of, which we call it greenfield and brownfield situations. And they are not all the same, but they have one goal to reach is to make sure their network will be flexible and quickly deployed to the area they target at a higher speed and lower latency. In order to make this possible, we have a different way to support. And some of the support required coming into live networks in the brownfield. And there are lots of the tunable softwares efforts from Rakuten Symphony. And we have to also respond to the expectation to make sure this hardware will be able to run on that requirement. At a greenfield, a different total set, Rakuten Symphony can play the whole strategies for all the infrastructures. In that level, we also are very lucky in the positions to learn how to fine-tuning as well. Tuning not just on the hardware, only also the software collaboration together. And this make the total solutions, including the Intel technology, become a very suitable and adoptions into this network. And I think the operators definitely want to see the three parties working together, how to reach this to go lower the total cost of ownership and make virtualization service able to the target area.
Thanks very much, Mory. And I can see that we've already received a few questions on greenfield versus brownfield, which hopefully we'll get to in more detail a little bit later. Geoff, can I come back across to you, because you've already highlighted some of the issues, but what is actually required for mobile operators to, as it were, crack the code on optimizing their operations? What's holding them back at the moment?
Yeah, I think it is the realities of that complexity of where the starting point is in existing operators. In Rakuten Symphony, we had a different problem. We had nothing, and we wanted to move incredibly quickly, and we wanted to have a very small operations team. In existing operators, there are large teams already running a highly complicated network of many generations. And obviously then introducing a holistic way of automating requires not only technology, but it also requires thoughts around the organization and also around the processes followed. So one key initiative that we always introduce with our engagements is to introduce this concept of an automation center of excellence. There's actually a centralized, focused group of people who work then with the existing domain owners to understand what's required to be surfaced and what's the priorities. Now, the second part, which is I think super critical, is that you want to execute driven by the most important use cases that are defined as most important by the business case associated with them. So avoid the large transformation, be very outcome focused, be very execution focused at the start, and choose use cases, rapidly sprint, get the result, and then start wrapping. And the end of that process, what you'll start to find is you increase momentum because people start to believe from just their own personal levels, and also the business starts to see results. So there's a general flywheel effect of acceleration that happens through that.
Great, good advice. Thanks very much, Geoff. And Caroline and Mory, how are Intel and Supermicro helping to solve some of these challenges we've been hearing about? Any examples that you can share with us? Caroline, let me start with you.
I think Geoff said it really well. So when Rakuten Symphony came to us, and this is actually started in Japan, they gave the business problem that they wanted to solve, such as automate the entire process. That was just in the early days of running the Open RAN system, and bring up the cell site in X number of minutes, not days. So when you're working from their back, knowing what Intel sits in the ecosystem, we're really focusing on providing telemetries at the silicon level, as well as the software. We provided the FlexRAN software that they was leveraged by Rakuten Symphony to build. We really focusing on, if this is the Supermicro, the Rakuten Symphony needs to automate the entire process, the installation, they bring up the bug fixing, and also the workflow in the backend. It relies significantly on the telemetry numbers that we can provide. So we're really focusing on starting with open loop, but really focusing also the closed loop level of data that we provide to Supermicro, to OEMs like Supermicro, to Rakuten Symphony. The journey takes really is outcome based. I think, Geoff, you said it really well. When you know the problem you want to solve, not break down the big problems into smaller problems, and then everybody in the circle knows the part that they have to play, and you run a very tight integration, debugging, and you constantly checking back in how we're doing in the process of automation. The mindshare shift that Geoff alluded to, not to do things because we've always done it like that. It's you think it's all in your head, but it actually impacts how you design from the get-go. So we have to constantly thinking, what is the problem that Rakuten want to achieve, and work really closely. I remember, Mory, how our engineers are working together in your lab to solve issues from the board level, from to improve that, to enable the goal that Geoff just outlined.
Great, thanks, Caroline. Really understand the problem. And Mory, what about you at Supermicro? What are some of the ways you've looked at to solve some of these challenges, and anything you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely. I think in this challenge here, many deployment, they require different form factor for the systems. Application-wise, automation process, Rakuten Symphony can onboarding to those environments, make the reliable networks to the operators and others. And Intel technology make sure the accelerators like the VRAM Boost or the previous ACC 100, those two things help Supermicro find the positions to contribute into the ecosystems. For example, certain of the cabinet, they require the very short depth systems. And we invest in advance to make sure the system can be short enough to go into the brownfield, replace other units already there. And we also recognize that those are thermal challenge to the systems, and also capacity challenged, how to put more core in to reduce the cost, and also make it flexible for all the different accelerator and also networking modules able to connect into the DU unit. And this is the investment we realized somebody have to start first. And then we are convinced by Rakuten Symphony and Intel, this is a great journey to help the industry that also helps Supermicro to expand the product portfolio. And the second steps, we also go further. We recognize operator and also customers would like to have a more densities. So from the one single node, we also start to offering more multi-node to keep in the same space and with multiple operating systems inside. And those also require certain know-how from the data centers to accelerate the network transformations. And those journeys, we use lots of our strengths, but we also appreciate those experience shared, because we modify our hardware structures to make sure they can reliable enough, including the NAPs, test those things. Those are the one we see the challenge at the field. Really need to have early investment, and also make it become a telco very optimized hardware to support this infrastructure expectations.
Thanks very much, Mory. And Geoff, would you like to come in and comment on this question?
Yeah, thanks, Guy. I just want to pick up on what Caroline and Mory said, and I really want to stress the fact that this automation journey is the key strategic imperative of the industry. If the industry wants to compete at a different level, it has to automate. And there's a key factor to it, that everything that goes into the network, as Caroline and Mory have just said, everything has to be programmable. Because once you can have programmable elements, then you can write software that actually controls them and automates them. So the automation journey is the first place that really networks turn from being hardware centric to being software centric. And the importance of initiatives like Open RAN is actually so that all of the network elements from, in that case, the radio, are all programmable the same way, independent of vendors. And that's how you can start to scale an operation in a horizontal way rather than a vertical vendor island way. So it's really important to understand that all initiatives, Open RAN, cloud, everything, is actually being put in place to feed the ability to simplify automations in operation.
Geoff, can I just ask a follow-up now? Because you mentioned programmability there. There's a lot of news at the moment around topics such as AI, cloud, a lot of exciting technologies. But how do we move past the buzzword stage, and how do we ensure that operators actually benefit from advancements in these areas?
Yeah, Guy, I hate those words. I wish if I had a magic wand and we could just shake it. We could stop talking about these words, because people believe then that these things are something that you buy and they magically solve your problem. They absolutely don't, and they aren't. They're more like behaviors. So, for example, our whole journey that we're speaking about here is built on one simple premise, and it's built on the fact that to be able to make decisions, you have to be able to have access to the data required so you can understand what is happening at the right time to make those decisions. So the surfacing of data in an industrialized, available way is actually the first journey to transforming this whole operation. And the cloud is a programmable interface, so you can remotely control hardware. Open RAN is a programmable interface, so you can remotely control radios from anybody. And then that feeds into everything you want to do. With data, you can actually have humans take decisions. With data, you can have AI take decisions. And with both of those, it actually leads into the automation cycles. So these words are these words, we need to put the words down and start working on the problems.
Yes, thanks, Geoff. We do indeed. And, as you say, we can't underestimate the importance of data behind all of this. Now, if I can use another one of these buzzwords for a second, introducing AI and automation, it's a significant undertaking for telcos, and it does create a new operational paradigm, a new operational model. Caroline, how are security and reliability assured as operations get transformed?
I love the way that you phrase it. AI requires data, lots of data, right? Data from the telemetry side, data from the hardware, software to make the right decision. Security, reliability becomes a important factor. Like when you have that data, you do have an issue with how to secure this. So we started thinking about it all the way at a silicon level. Everybody do their parts. We have a secure enclave. Literally, there are data that at the silicon level we can box it off, so it can only be used by the rightful owner. So this data is secure at silicon level. I think that's a really important point that I wanted to make. We take the security from design at the silicon, at every CPU, I/O that we design in the software itself. So in order to ensure the security and reliability, we do the part from hardware side. We do the part from a software. All the data flow, the telemetry data that we are flowing, whether it's silicon or software, we ensure that this is only going to the intended customers and intended users. 3GPP itself has a good security definition. O-RAN spec has excellent security definition. On top of that, we do this at the silicon level. I think that's probably the best thing, that as one of the leading silicon provider, there's a part that we play. Now, one thing that Mory has alluded at the beginning, Supermicro is an extremely modular design focused OEM. I'll let Mory talk about it, but I think that also plays a very important part when Rakuten Symphony put everything together, delivered that as a system to the operators. All of these pieces come together to make this a most secure and reliable platform.
That's good to hear. Thanks, Caroline. Geoff, what else can we do to assure security and reliability through this transformation?
Yeah, a simple, very real example. So we do zero-touch provisioning of all the Open RAN radios. And as part of that zero-touch provisioning, we ensure that all the default usernames and passwords are replaced with completely unique usernames and passwords that are vaulted inside an area where no human ever sees them. So there's a couple of things that happen because of that, and this is a great example of the power of automation. First off, once you have that blueprint working, it runs thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, and it always does the same thing. So the quality of the process is guaranteed 100%. And there is guarantees that no human will ever mess with those credentials, even see those credentials, and they're always implemented. So they have a good example where through automation and through these open interfaces, you are guaranteeing security on a level that you just would not find in a traditional manual operation.
Yeah, great example. Thanks, Geoff. Mory, I briefly mentioned SKUs and digitalisation at the beginning of the programme. How does your technology and expertise directly impact the reduction of supply-side SKUs as well as the digitalisation of workflows in network operations?
I think this is a great chance to explain how Supermicro helped on these topics. First of all, the building block solution has been widely adapted in our strategy for data center type of the product design. And it's allowed modularized design, scalabilities, and also able to do the sustainabilities, save the resources. This concept is widely used in our product design. And because of this good chance in the open RAN design, we also recognize these possibilities to bring this data center building block solution into this form factors consideration. So first of all, we share certain development resources to make sure our internal software support from hardware monitoring perspective will be like the data center level quality. And those can be reused and tunables and become another one offer package at the OEM service to the telco environment because there are different telemetry requirements. And to reach this level, the building block solution is just the first steps. We also have a global infrastructures. We design made in USA, and we also have a regional hub in Asia and regional hub in Europe. And this all our own integration lines. We prepare the material in advance. Definitely, we cannot prepare everything all together at one time. So reduce the SKUs into the focus. Optimize hardware is the first step. We also recognize you cannot just offer the hardware and then wait for the software partner like Rakuten Symphony to tune everything, especially when there's new technology coming in. If we want to reach the level Geoff just mentioned, the very highly secured devices, the less hardware change will be easier and faster for the deployment. So we have to make sure our system reliable enough and also flexible for the expansions. And reduce the SKU is the key. And we definitely have a lot of SKUs to help the telco industry, but we want to focus on one or no more than 3 SKUs and on this open RAN in the DU and the CU area. And because of this, it's very focused. We also can continue the roadmap. Actually, we're starting from the isolate generations, which is 3rd gen Xeon SP, all the way till now the latest generation on the 5th generations. We can use the same form factors. And those material can be reused, and also the extra investment to make it reliable. So in this process here, to make this building block solution also possible become the telco consideration form factor, it's our strategy. And it turned out customers have a chance to see the value now. And as for digitalizations, I think the most important thing we want to highlight for those network topics, we have lots of the possibility to fine-tuning our internal settings to make sure those parameters able to be controlled 100% by Rakuten Symphony software SIM world. And to reach that level, they are able to watch everything, inventory informations, and location and status, including also the software on top of that. And this is probably the most important things. If we cannot reach this level, and it's very hard to continue to promise, even through the higher level, through the AI to create intelligence. So I think this will be the good chance, and we are going to continue to invest more in this topic.
That's very good to hear. Thanks, Mory. Geoff, let's come across to you for some comments on this.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough what Mory just said and why they are such a key partner to us. I recommend to everybody who's considering how to build networks moving forward, not only to consider the technology aspects, but also the economic model aspects. And one of those areas, and again, one of the reasons why we have the designs we do, is to optimize supply chain. We believe that we could get compute platforms down to 4 different SKUs for the whole network. Basically, high performance compute, outdoor, indoor, and general data center compute, outdoor and indoor. So if you get down to 4 SKUs, and those then 4 SKUs all inherit the invested research and benefits coming from Intel inside the servers, which means that their capabilities and capacity naturally increase. You manage that. Just think about the warehousing savings. Just think about the specialist knowledge that's no longer required. You've completely horizontalized the hardware supply chain. And the economics then start to mirror that of which you see in the mega data center players outside our industry and more in the internet and enterprise worlds.
Thanks, Geoff. Well, we're about halfway through our programme now, but before we continue, I just want to mention our poll. As well as submitting questions to our guests, you can also take part in our industry poll. We are asking just one question on automation and giving you a choice of 4 possible answers. And here is the question. Approximately what percentage of your telco operations are automated? And as you can see, the answer choices range from 0 through to 100%. We're going to keep the poll open for a few more days, so don't miss out. Make sure that your vote counts, and we'll be revealing the results later on TelecomTV. Okay, on with the questions. We touched on this earlier in the programme, but this issue of greenfield versus brownfield comes up so often during our discussions, and we've received a number of questions on this topic. Mory, could you provide examples of how Supermicro's hardware solutions have been instrumental in greenfield networks, and is anything different for existing mobile network operators?
Yes, to our experience, I think the requirement from the operators, they are similar. And then we define as a brownfield and greenfields, definitely because there are lots of the new infrastructure have to be prepared before you deploy those things. And in the greenfields, you have a lot of choice and also have a lot of decisions to be made. And in this case here, we realized that Rakuten Symphony have a lot of the guidance need Supermicro to follow, instead of we propose many kind of different hardwares. So greenfield doesn't mean we can do whatever we want. Like Geoff make a very good examples, down to the very specific 4 series of SKUs. And in this type of network, the tuner board software is the key. Even though you can control many kind of things to select your own radio unit and your tower and network and also the infrastructure in the cloud space, it still have lots of the protocol to follow, because eventually after deploying for the Open RAN, still need to connect back to the live network. And flexibilities give Supermicro a chance to fine-tuning the performance. The performance means the CPU requirement to access to those radio unit. And sometimes could be the 2 or to the 3. And when they change their configurations, and our hardware also need to be fast enough to respond to those configuration change. And also, there are lots of the security requirements to be verified, including the system level inside those area. And we are requested to provide a very flexible and programmable interface, allow a Rakuten Symphony software team to touch every angles. And automation process also have a lots of requirement, including have to double check. You want to have a zero-touch provisionings and how to control your systems without touching it at the field, still keep the very high secure environment. And even we call it greenfield, you can imagine it's still very secure and highly controlled area. So to reach that level, I think automation process is it's unavoidable. You have to make sure that will be fully control everything in the field. Definitely, we still plan for some worst cases. And then there's also make the system need to be serviceable easily. And I think to the ground fields, the lesson that we have here, we have to make sure our cost is competitive enough for Rakuten Symphony to keep their positions, continue delivering the flexible software with the good values, because there are lots of the options, which is the brownfield or other operators, they can still use what they have network right now. So key is the cost to reductions and also the very reliable hardware to stay in the mobile network. So this is about the brownfield part, the comment. And as for the brownfields, many people have experience and knowledges, and I think it's much even complicated than the brownfield settings. And we also very lucky have a chance to do that job as well for Rakuten Symphony. So to the concept wise are very similar for the supporting model, but for the deployment pressure, I think Rakuten Symphony as a leader in this segment carry lots of the pressure, and we are very honored to support behind them as well.
Great. Well, thanks for explaining that for us, Mory. Because another popular area with our community is sustainability. Now, Caroline, energy sustainability is a key issue in the growth of telecom networks and services, and becoming more so. Can the use of automation in hardware reduce energy costs and associated greenhouse gas emissions?
Definitely. And in fact, I wanted to highlight our fourth generation Xeon that has a built-in VM boost. It's an SoC that has the acceleration built in. It increased the 2x the capacity at 20% further power reduction, and the usage of network AI to reduce and significantly improve the power efficiency. I mean, going back to what both Geoff and Mory talked about, number one is that if the system is designed modular enough, and then Intel has added the sustainability features, and especially a closed loop telemetry that allows us to adjust different states, P state and C state. And that's part of the automation, by the way. It's all of the things done without manual intervention, that we automatically puts the CPU power in different states when it's low usage versus high usage. All of these is part of the automation process. If you think about that, it no longer requires a human intervention, and through a very secure enclave, you can adjust the power at for the telco operators. It's all part of the sustainability and driving further power efficiency in this open and disaggregated network.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. It's an exciting area, this. Mory, what about you, and from your perspective, what can automation do to help reduce energy costs?
In this process here, I think automation definitely doesn't mean you have to change every day. And then I think that's the key. For instance, like Caroline mentioned about the vRAN features into this segment, helped OpenRAN able to reduce the components. Previously, we have extra add-on card. And now, because this feature has been embedded into the CPU, and it's not just reduce the power consumptions, also make our system design much easier. Previously, we have to handle when the Intel ACC 100 deliver the performance after have to bring the extra heat into the systems. And we are able to solve that together in one CPU. So that definitely also helped to reduce the system level design and to reduce the fan pressures. And this will allow us to save the power. And the second thing is because of this system design become much more compact, and it also allow the deployment to the different locations. And to reach these features, we also understand the sustainabilities, not just through the component level support. We also start to think about to offer the liquid cooling type choices. And this will also be another consideration. But it's not just for one angle from the DU perspective. It's actually to look at the telco cloud infrastructures. Certain of the deployment will be in the data center side to support the telco cloud. And those level of the deployment, liquid cooling will also dramatically to bring down the energy cost. And all this all together, I think the telco operators will have a different angle to look at their future infrastructure setup.
Thank you, Mory. And Geoff, reducing costs and improving energy efficiency would seem a great use case for automation.
Yeah, absolutely, Guy. I mean, now the technology from both Caroline's commentary and Mory's commentary, we have to build networks for peak traffic. How often is there peak traffic? And traditionally, we've always had to keep those networks full on and full powered, irrelevant of what the actual utilization is of the equipment. Now the technology is allowing us to switch states very rapidly between active and passive, and then also dynamically moving jobs into clusters of servers and powering off, putting to sleep certain clusters. Couldn't do that at all without the programmability that's afforded by all the technology being provided by our partners, and also the data, and then the ability to have algorithms that understand the state and automate in real time. So I think the power usage of networks today is the worst it's ever going to be. That should be the statement of the industry, and every year we should be reducing it radically.
Yeah, nicely said. Thank you, Geoff. I've got a question here that gets back to your collaboration. Mory, can you share some insights with us into the scalability of these solutions and their applicability to networks of various sizes and configurations?
Yes. So we realized in this workload settings, the definitions from the operators, and then they will explain their requirements, how many radio units have to be supported at that field, and also what kind of a network interface required. And to reach this level of expectations, the easy job is to build everything they ask, become an OEM type of hardware. But this easy answer will bring the side effect after. The cost will go higher because it's become a proprietary design. So we use the building block strategies to make this possible. And this building block have a certain components become flexible to be changed. For example, we will use the Intel Westport channel in Logan Beach interface to support multiple 25G port. As accelerators into it, the VRAM boost will allow us to configure into a different workload. And in these densities, one single node it will be okay in the one site. It certainly have to become up to 3 systems. And we also recognize if there is a way to put all this hardware requirement together into the same form factor and increase the densities, then dramatically can save the space for operator and also software partner to put more services into the same area. And because of this requirement, we start to think about how to utilize those new technology introduced by Intel, and which is VRAM boost technology, and also the 4th Gen Xeon SP solution. These two, we still can keep it in a multiple sled design, the 2U form factor. So imagine you can have the similar DU design to the 2U rack mount space, and then able to support up to 3 individual nodes. So this dramatically save lots of spaces, and also to bring down the cost because you can share the power and share the power supply to support 3 the nodes. These scalabilities really depends on the workload requirement. So certain area, one will be enough. We have the single node services. But if you want to change the configurations, we also can stay in the same form factor. And it's very, very persuasive to using this the same form factor strategies to scaling through the different CPU workload. And we really enjoy this advantage introduced by Intel, and also hope this can continue to support Rakuten Symphony, the software workload requirement. And after this, we are also thinking more next steps. What if the customer expecting more density? We also offering now with the 2U 4 node as well. So you can imagine 2U in the 1 node, 3 node, and 4 nodes. This will dramatically change the game, and definitely if you can find the right balance, also can save lots of costs for the hardware selection as well.
Thank you very much, Mory. Well, there's a question we have received here that moves away from technology. In the context of these automation initiatives, let's not forget the most critical piece of this is people. And Geoff, let me put this one to you first. What are the organizational challenges of deploying automation in terms of the mindset of operational teams at operators?
Yeah, great question, Guy, and I think we've touched on this. I think the larger obstacles to actually adopting automation are organizational processes and not the capabilities of people to do automation, but the capacity that people have to do automation at the same time as they're doing their day job, which is very taxing. There is a need to have a very much an automation first mindset. One of the processes that we have implemented in our own operations in Japan, but also in our tooling, is that whenever there is an outage and we do root cause analysis, we ask the question, is this possible to automate? And if you click and check that box, it automatically goes into a queue of potential use cases. And then the automation team, which was what I was mentioning previously, select them based on business case impact. So releasing people to actually think automation first is a big deal, and just giving support to allow inside the existing processes the introduction of that mindset goes a long way. So the biggest barrier, I think, is the reality of how hard we're working keeping the lights on today.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much, Geoff. Caroline, do you want to comment on this question about culture and people and mindset?
Actually, I would. Geoff actually said it really, really well. One of the things that we are looking at the tip level telecom infrastructure project, we've been asked by different operators, say, how do I read? There is a little bit of a different skill set you do need to add into the workforce. For example, we have done some training courses, and one of the things that, in addition to what Geoff said, really adequately, really well, how do we make people doing day job and a half, right? And one thing that been discussed, I thought it's worthwhile looking at into fundamentally, you probably need to change the way that you benchmark people, you measure folks. The performance goal needs to be shifted from just doing this repeatedly well, but like Geoff was talking about, if you find a way to do use cases, you find this tiger team, the center of excellence for automation, and that actually changes how the rest of organization view this issue. We found that repeatedly, whenever we go through some transformation inside a big corporation, you always have to have a team willing to take that on, like a tiger team, and show the example, and that rinse and repeat, and the rest of the organization will adopt. But it is hard to change people and the behavior, and myself included, that we've always done this and always done this right. Why would we have to change? But changing the benchmark, setting up a tiger team, setting an example, that a recipe, blueprint that you can rinse and repeat is very important.
Indeed it is. Thank you, Caroline. We've touched on the issue of data already, but this is one key factor that has restricted automation capabilities, and that's been a lack of data availability. However, the use of network telemetry is growing. Mory, can you talk more about this and its potential for improving network service automation?
Definitely. Before we start these topics, I think I want to also illustrate the situation, the real one. We are at the field working with the different parties. First of all, because of the Open RAN, it's no longer just we provide a hardware to Rakuten Symphony, and Rakuten Symphony have to handle everything together by themselves. Certain of the situations we at the field working together, we realize certain challenge. We have to bring everybody in the same rooms. When I say everybody, it's not like 100 people, but it's closer to the numbers, like maybe including 6 companies sitting in the same meeting room. Just need to prove how to guarantee those latency and how to guarantee those parameters, telemetry features will be properly shown on the dashboard in the existing operator network dashboard. And sometimes they get surprised because they cannot see what they want or what they have in the past. So they expect Supermicro and Rakuten Symphony to prove how to reach the same performance. And I think in that journeys, we realized I use the Caroline just mentioned, tiger team is a very right word. We don't want too many people in the same room just to point the different directions. So there's a very clear instructions and how to work together. And from the hardware level, we finish the setup and the guidance from the Intel about the FlexRAN. Once we've done this part, we offer this to Rakuten Symphony lab to certify and validate before moving to the live networks. This whole steps, once we finish, even you brought everything to the location in the operator live network, we still get some surprised. And then to solve this surprise, your beginning question asking how to control, it's actually the key and the evidence to show the data is actually there. And then we have to adjust our exporter for those parameters and then allow the Rakuten Symphony SIM world to grab all those things in the control interface and then share back with the live network. And those settings also need to be highly secure with the board management function like the BMC and the redfish through the different operating system support. And there are many steps. I think in short, looking at the hardware is pretty simple and using the service is also very convenient, but to connect all the things together in a very flexible infrastructure, it's actually pretty challenging, which is probably the reason why the Open RAN have a few leaders can make it become the real case at the field. And Rakuten Symphony definitely the one. And we enjoy these settings. I think it's very challenging. I never say it's easy. So Geoff gave lots of good questions and we learned a lot. So we are going to make it better for Rakuten Symphonies.
Thank you, Mory. And Geoff, let's go over to you. Do you want to pick up on Mory's comments there about network telemetry?
Yeah, I think the whole industry understands that the importance of observability frameworks is growing, and the accessibility to data when it's needed, and the fidelity and that data being in the right location. I think we can learn a lot from industries outside of telecom, such as in the internet space and the large cloud players who've instrumented their systems very much from an observability paradigm, and that's something that we have in operation, and it's a source of truth that's required if you want to start to really understand at a system level what your network is doing.
Thank you, Geoff. Well, we've still got time for just a couple more questions that have been sent in from our viewers. So let's get on to the next one here. Intent-based end-to-end automatic provisioning is indispensable for real network slicing service by 5G standalone for applications like autonomous driving, etc. Can our panelists share any experiences they have of this or possible solutions? Geoff, do you want to take this first, and then perhaps we can hear quickly from Caroline? Geoff?
Yeah, and my answer will be very, very simple, and it's actually something Caroline said earlier. It's a great example of how complexity is increasing, and automation always helps with complexity. It's going to be impossible to provide such services in the future without automation. So the only question that we have as a business is the priority you put in solving that use case versus all the other automation use cases that you have in your pipeline.
Yeah, thank you, Geoff. Caroline, do you want to pick up on Geoff's comments?
Yeah, so network slicing is a great example of how the next step for the automation need to drive to. If we're going to offer a network slice, you mentioned autonomous driving. Just even look at connected car. Understanding the use cases, you're working backwards. How do we need to provide enough data and enough the intent base is really about designing from the use cases back. And so we're more and more looking at the network, 5G network, we need to start serving enterprises. The observability framework is a must-have. It's not even optional. No enterprise is willing to take this on unless they know in a single dashboard what the network's doing, how the slice is guaranteed bandwidth, spectrum, latency, security, and jitter. All of that has to be designed in from the slice level. So we have so much conversation at CTIA, at a board. We're always looking at this is if we want to make network slice, which is a must-have for 5G, the increase our reachability into enterprises. for example, this observability, the everything we talked about, the telemetry, the automation process, is no longer even an optional. It's a must-have. So I think the work that we've done to make vRAN, Open RAN work in a distributed network really sets us very well to take the network slice deep into very critical infrastructure like a oil and gas industry, manufacturing, connected car, even healthcare. So that's a great hope, and then the work that we've done together sets up a really good foundation.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. Another viewer question in here that's been addressed to Geoff. Geoff, how do you coordinate software upgrades across multiple vendors in an automated fashion? For example, when a change in the DU requires an adjustment in the RU for it to be properly integrated.
Yeah, so all of the automations are actually managed through blueprints and templates that are then, it's very much, we have a concept, it's something that's been in the industry forever called a MOP. So whenever you do anything to a network, you have a method of procedure that actually was rooted in NASA's processors. You test the MOP, and then traditionally you would take that MOP and a human would execute the steps in that MOP. We have the same concept called an RMOP, where we, rather than a human doing it, we have a software program that is then written, tested, guaranteed it works, and then when it's required to be executed, the RMOP is the one that actually runs. Now, in our system that manages this, and one maybe key factor we can bring up in answering this question, one aspect we haven't touched on at all, how important it is to have governance around automation. So when you've got hundreds to thousands of these automation scripts, you need to make sure that you are logging when these automation scripts run, and you can go back and introspect on all of the operations in case there are problems anywhere. So when these RMOPs run to do a massive network upgrade, they run in parallel. That's another massive advantage. Each automation that we execute actually spins up a new container in a cluster. It can run in parallel thousands of times to the others, which means that we can actually perform these upgrades in a much more rapid fashion versus a traditional mechanism and process. But I can't stress enough, actually, that lifecycle management of automation programs is absolutely key, because in the example I've just described, with that power comes great responsibility. If there's weakness in your supply chain, or if you haven't tested it appropriately, then it also can cause damage on a larger scale. So having that governance process is part of the automation center of excellence that we introduce.
Great, strong message. Thank you, Geoff. Right, we've got time for one final question today, and it's a big one. I'm going to ask it to all of you. Where do you see the greatest potential for the adoption of automation? Are there specific network operational domains, or are there any real-world examples you can give us? Well, let's start by asking Mory this one. Mory.
Oh, it's my honor to be the first to answer these big questions. I would like to highlight the good histories and the records we did with the partners. Starting from, I think, if people still remember the Cascade Lake, which is the second generation Xeon SP, and then we're still offering that to the operators and network partners. And then across the third gen, I select fourth gen Sapphire Rapid and incoming Emerald Rapid as well on the fifth gen. I want to highlight this chance here is that actually operators, they would like to have the very reliable, tested, certified solutions from the Rakuten Symphony. But we still need to have a good spectrum of the hardware capabilities long enough to keep the operators very trusted, provide services from Supermicro. And to this level, you can imagine when you change a different technology inside there, there will be not just the validation from the software side. From the hardware design perspective, we want to keep it always in the same form factor systems design, and then keep those board control management interface, including like Redfish and others, allow those exporters able to be aligned well. Instead of we always give them a surprise, like we add some sensors without telling software strong partner like Rakuten Symphony. So this conversation is a long journey, and then we work efficiently together, and to make these efforts become seamlessly connected together, it's the key. And hardware provider like Supermicro, our job is loyal to the customers, how to make sure we can create values instead of going extra steps to do other things. So we are very focused here, and then to make long availabilities for the telco industry. Open RAN is just the beginning journeys, and then vRAN definitely also could be there later, including going all up the way to the core and telco cloud. So we have all the spectrums like I described in the very beginning, and then we will carefully step one by one into the proper segments with the Rakuten Symphony and Intel technology as well.
Thank you very much, Mory. And Caroline, what's your thoughts on the potential for network automation?
Open RAN is just the beginning. It is a great proof ground. We are honing our skills here, and led by Rakuten Symphony, giving us the problem statements, pushing us to solve those issues. But I think that as we progress on this, really when I look forward into the next step of 5G advance, as we going into offering network slices, going into the enterprise, this skill set becomes very valuable. And Rakuten already announced their intention of getting into, actually announced agreement with different, offering different private networks. I think what we have done so here has a great potential to really open up when we go into the IT and OT world, combining telco to IT and OT. So automation, telemetry, sustainability, security become just such a must-have factors.
Indeed they do. Thank you, Caroline. And Geoff, final word today from you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it comes full circle from where we started. So automation, I think, exists in a localized, domain-specific way. I think the big opportunity that now we move into is cross-domain automation. And with that, it's a journey of a million wins, I think is the best way to approach it. A simple example that can save significant amounts of operational hours. So there's a problem that happens in a network. Either it's detected through telemetry data or KPI performance data, or alarms coming in through fault management. All of that is automatically correlated into a potential resolution that then is allocated to the right team based on all of the information that was actually received. And if it can be allocated to the right team, that right team then that gets surfaced to a screen that says, we've seen this problem 10 times before. We've resolved it using this automation script. Do you want to make this a closed loop activity? And if you click that checkbox, then it doesn't actually surface to a human anymore. The system just takes care of it. Key inside that is that continuously all trouble tickets are always created, logged for, again, historical attribution and ability to understand what the system has actually done. Compare that to the traditional world. Maybe a ticket gets raised, it goes to a radio team. The radio team says, I don't think it's my problem. It goes to a transmissions team. It goes to a core team. And finally, in days to weeks, you might find a resolution to that. So one closing remark maybe to say about automation is the actual explicit surfacing of all of the existing knowledge inside a network operator into a known database that then you can use to run, but also you can use to run AI models on as well.
Thank you very much, Geoff, and a great set of answers to our final question, but we must leave it there. Thank you all for taking part in our discussion today. Now, if you still have questions, then please keep sending them in and we will forward them to our guests after the show. And don't forget to take part in our poll. It's very quick, just a one question, so make sure that you have your say. And for more information on the unique collaboration between these three companies, then please visit symphony.rakuten.com and navigate your way to the partner page. Alternatively, just click one of the links in the text below this video. For now though, thank you for watching and goodbye.